Hi, Barb. I'm still get that thing out of my face.
What would I do without you?
You'd die.
People with CF aren't supposed to get within 6 feet because we could end up catching each other's bacteria. You followed me.
With the intent of introducing myself. I'm Will Newman.
You're the kind of guy that ignores the rules because it makes you feel in control. Am I right?
You're not wrong.
You think that's cute?
Do you think it's cute?
There's no room in war for fear.
Do you know how lucky you are to be here?
Nothing is going to save our lives. We're breathing borrowed air.
These meds are not optional.
Yeah, that's probably why they keep shoving them down my throat.
Okay, we're gonna do our treatments together, so that way I know you're actually doing them.
Shake on it.
Funny.
Baby, it hits so hard, holding on to my chest. Maybe
Don't tell me the one time you're interested in some guy, he's also got CF.
I just helped him set up his med cart.
6 feet apart at all times. You both know the rules. You catch his infection and you can kiss new lungs goodbye.
I don't want to hurt you. I can't.
This whole time I've been living for my treatments instead of doing my treatments so that I can live. And I want to live. After all that CF is stolen from me, I don't mind stealing something back. 304 millimeters, 12 inches, 1 foot.
so hard, holding on to my chest. Baby, you left your mark, reminding me to forget.
5 feet apart.
Doesn't matter where you
Are you in?
are, you can keep my regret. You left your mark. I will fight. I will fight for you. I always do until my heart is black and blue. And I will stay with you. We'll make it to the other side like lovers do. I'll reach my hands out in the dark and wait for yours to until I can wait for you. I'll wait for you. 'Cause I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, no, not yet. Even when I'm down to my last breath. Even when they say there's nothing left. So don't give up on. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even when nobody else believes. I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me. Now I'll hold on to you. No matter what this world will throw, it won't shake me loose. I'll reach my hands out in the dark and wait for yours to until I can wait for you. I'll wait for you. 'Cause I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, no, not yet. Even when I'm down to my last breath. Even when they say there's nothing left. So don't give up on. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even when nobody else believes. I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me. I will fight for you. I always do until my heart is black and blue.
So I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's called 5 Feet Apart. It's about a young girl and a young guy. They both have cystic fibrosis, and because of the lung disease and the seriousness of it, they have to worry about bacteria and viruses and germs. Up until just like 20 years ago or 30 years ago, people would only live to an average age of 10 with that. But because of medical discoveries, you know, there's a lot of people that live quite long now, or quite a bit longer. And it's one of those diseases, since there is not a total cure yet, the whole idea is literally, if something comes along and grants you another 1, 2, 3, 4 years, you jump at it, because maybe with the fast increases in technology, by that time something else can give you a little bit more time. So why did I choose this particular video? Why this particular illustration? And that song was part of that movie as well, because he says, I'm fighting for you. We've been talking this is the third Wednesday night on the series has been titled Fighting for the Promises, and how most of the time when somebody gives us a promise, we just expect it to happen. We expect it to be given. We don't expect any effort on our part, because they've given us a promise. It's ours, or it's for us, or so forth. And so the very first Wednesday night, we were in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 2, and Moses is relating the story of when they began this battle into the promised land. They had gotten to the outskirts, but there were kings and kingdoms surrounding the promised land that they had to fight to get the promise, which was the promised land. And we found out they had to fight every bit of the way, not only to get to the edge of the promised land, but then they had to fight once they got in the promised land. And it was constantly fighting for the promises. And sometimes in this day and time, we think all we have to do is pray and it's just going to be thrown in our laps. And there's times we literally, through our faith, have to show and fight and prayer, fight, sometimes fasting, for what God has already promised us. And so the first one was called Take the Fight to Them. That God literally told Moses when they entered into this land, you go and attack King Sihon. You start this. And so they were the aggressors in that. Sometimes when we are looking for the answers of the prayers that we've been praying, and we're wanting to see the promises of God come to fruition in our life, sometimes God says, be the aggressor. You go out and take the first initiative. You make the first move. You begin this fight and battle, and I will give you the victory. So not only did they have the promised land waiting, that God says, I've given you this land. Well, then why are we having to fight for it? They don't understand that. But now, just to get there, he says, attack, because I've given you the king. But they still had to get out there and fight. The victory was guaranteed, but they had to get out and fight. So that was the first Wednesday night. Then last Wednesday night, if you were here or if you weren't here, just a quick review, is the minute they finish that battle, God tells them to continue their journey. And so they just start off minding their own business. They're just traveling along the road that God is telling them to go on. And once they enter into this city, they're attacked. Now this time it's not their fault. They're not the aggressors. They're not doing anything. They're just simply going along, traveling along. And when they get to the city, King Og and his army attacks them. And so the title for last week was Fighting for the Promises. Sometimes we have to take it to them. Last week was Fighting for the Promises. Sometimes we're ambushed on the way to our promise. Don't be surprised that when we're about to get to our promise, we're getting close to the promise, the answer is near, that the devil jumps out of seemingly nowhere, pounces on us, tries to destroy us, dissuade us, get us discouraged so we don't keep going, or distract us with the fight. Even forget about what our purpose was. And so it was titled Ambushed when they bring the fight to us. Now tonight's title, and this is the last one, we were in Deuteronomy 2, then we went to Deuteronomy 3. We're still in 3, but we're at the bottom half of the chapter. And this one is called Drafted, Not My War. And so I don't know, Bill, did you have to go through the draft when you was a younger man? Did they have you got to miss out on that? You know, I was so happy that when I turned 18 that wasn't an issue, but there was a time when young men, they didn't have a choice. They reached the age of 18, they had to go register for the draft, and then you might get selected. And if you did, there was no choice about it unless you had health issues. You had to serve. And so here I've chosen that picture of Uncle Sam was, I want you, and I titled it, God speaking, you've been drafted, and then our response, but it's not my war. I didn't start this fight. I didn't want this fight. That's their fight. That's his fight. That's her fight. I don't want to be dealing with this. So sometimes we have to take the fight to the enemy. Sometimes the enemy ambushes us and brings the fight to us. Sometimes it's not even our war, but before we can have our promise, I got to make sure you get yours. Now, ain't that crazy? You see, sometimes we don't understand all the intricacies of these Bible stories and what was trying to be relayed to us, what kind of knowledge God was trying to give to us. But we find a situation here that we're going to be delving into in just a moment, that there was 2.5, which sounds weird, 2.5 tribes. That's like when they say the average family has 1.5 kids. You know, like, well, who has 1.5 kids? 2.5 tribes of the 12 tribes. One of the tribes divided in half at this time. A lot of them divided later on, but at this time, one of them, the tribe of Manasseh, had divided. And so 2 tribes plus a half a tribe of Manasseh decided they had their promise. They wanted the land that they had just conquered. King Sihon's land and King Og's land, they wanted that. So they were satisfied. They've got what they wanted. But Moses, and God speaking to Moses, said, no, you can't have yours till they get theirs. Well, but why do I have to be dependent on that? You see, because God wants all of his people to dwell in safety, to dwell in peace, to have a place that supplies all their needs, to have room enough to grow and be fruitful and supply. And so God literally tells them, and we're going to get into this, that you can't have yours unless you help them get theirs. I think there's some important principles here that sometimes we get focused because we live in a world where it's all about me. Me, get mine. And once I get mine, I'll sit back and I'll watch everybody, and they're struggling. They got issues. They got problems. Well, whoo, thank God I'm living in my blessing. I'm living on my promised land. I think God is going to try to speak to you tonight if you've ever felt that way, or in the future if you tend to feel that way. He's going to say, I'm not going to be happy with you and your promise till you help your brothers and sisters get their promise. So in the beginning of chapter 3, we have the reminder in Deuteronomy. We're going to get there in just a second. We have a reminder of how the lands already conquered on the east side of the Jordan were assigned to the tribes of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. Though they had been given their land, they still had the responsibility of fighting besides their brothers, the other tribes, until all the land had been taken. Let's see what God actually said. So if you'll go to Deuteronomy chapter 3, we're going to read verses 18 through 20. We actually touched on this a little bit in one of the other messages, but now we're going to spend some time and go into detail here. And I'm reading in the NLT, so this is Deuteronomy chapter 3, verses 16 through 19. And it starts off with this. This is Moses speaking. I gave Gilead to the clan of Machir, but I also gave part of Gilead to the tribes of Reuben and Gad. The area I gave them extended from the middle of the Arnon Gorge in the south to the Jabbok River on the Ammonite frontier. They also received the Jordan Valley all the way from the Sea of Galilee down to the Dead Sea, with the Jordan River serving as the western boundary. To the east were the slopes of Pisgah. At that time I gave this command to the tribes that would live east of the Jordan. So now he's speaking to these tribes who are going to inherit this land. This is their land. This is their promised land. This is what they've accepted as their inheritance. So he says, at that time I gave this command to those tribes who were going to stay here and live here. Although the Lord God has given you this land as your property, it's yours, it's your promise, but there's a condition. All your fighting men must cross the Jordan ahead of your Israelite relatives, armed and ready to assist them. Verse 19, your wives, children, and numerous livestock, however, may stay behind in the towns I have given you. I've given you this. It's yours, but you can't sit here yet. You can't enjoy it yet. You can't go to the house, kick up your heels, and say, whew, it's been a rough 40 years. It's been a rough time. I am so glad I finally got a place to call home. God says, no. You got a house, you got land, you got all this stuff. Your wives and them can stay here, but you got an obligation. You got to follow over here and begin to do some work. So Moses is warning them. Who's them? Reuben, the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, the half-tribe of Manasseh that had split in two. That just because they've received their territory, just because they've got their promise, the obligation to their Israelite relatives wouldn't be completed until they helped conquer the whole land. You see, most of us understand the way the blessing works, if you want to say that, is that the Lord blesses us so that we in turn can bless others. And once we have received freely, then freely we are to give. And that our utmost concern should always be that we shouldn't be happy, we shouldn't be content, we shouldn't be satisfied till those around us that are also part of the quote-unquote family, the children of Israel, that they are also resting in the same promise. That we don't stop along the way. Everybody at New Life Church, we're all on this journey to heaven. We're all needing answers. We're all needing help. We're all seeking God's guidance. We've been given promises, and we're looking for the answers to our prayer. But we don't stop off the trail once we get ours and let the other ones continue to fight, struggle, and try to survive on their own. We have now what we need, but we have to help those around us obtain what they need. So they were being drafted to fight in their brethren's war. Now, I chose that word on purpose because we're talking about tonight, this ain't my war. I got what I wanted. I got what I was promised. I got what I came for. They don't have theirs yet. That's their wars. That's their battles. That's their circumstances. They got to deal with that. And we're having to fight our brethren's war. It's not my war, God. I didn't choose that battle. I'm weary. I need to stop. I need to rest. But we all understand the basic concept that in God's kingdom, we're really not supposed to be more concerned about ourselves over other people. That literally it's supposed to be a compassionate heart and feeling and attitude that spreads out to everybody. When they hurt, I hurt. When they are rejoicing, then I rejoice. If they're saddened, then I should be saddened. If they are in lack and I have some, then I should help provide some of that. That God wants us all to be concerned about the others. So Moses says, okay, your women and children could stay because they're really a detriment in this thing here, in this situation, because they're going to be fighting wars and battles. And so livestock and children and women could be a liability in that situation. So he says, all the warriors, though, all the soldiers, all the men of age couldn't do so until everybody was enjoying the blessing, till everybody had received what they were wanting. Let's go to the book of Numbers. And so Moses is given this warning. And so literally from Numbers and then Deuteronomy and then also in the book of Joshua, we have a lot of interlap of all this story going on. They tell it from their own stamp, sort of like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They're telling the same story from different perspectives. And so we've been hearing this from Moses' perspective. But in Numbers, we actually get to hear the response of the people of Gad and Reuben and the half-tribe of Manasseh. So in Numbers 32, verses 16 through 19, we're going to read this. And we're going to find out that the tribes agree to what he has said. So he's got that up there. But they, that's the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, they all come up. They've been given the warning and said, we simply want to build pens for our livestock and fortified towns for our wives and children. Then we will arm ourselves and lead our fellow Israelites into battle until we have brought them safely to their land. Meanwhile, our families will stay in the fortified towns we build here so they will be safe from any attacks by the local people. You can't just leave women and children and livestock undefended. We will not return to our homes until all the people of Israel have received their portions of land. And then 19, But we do not claim any of the land on the other side of the Jordan, the promised land. We would rather live here on the east side and accept this as our grant of land. So they said, okay, Moses, we're good with this. We're happy here. We've chosen this land. We're right here on the Jordan, so it's still a bountiful land. It's still flowing with milk and honey because both sides of the river are blessed. Both sides of the river get all the nourishment and minerals and nutrients from that water supply. So we're happy to stay on this side. They can have all that. Just give us a little bit of time to build some pens, get some stuff set up so our wives are protected. And evidently, they probably allowed a few of the men to stay, maybe some of the younger men, maybe some of the older men, and a few people to be in charge in case there was an attack. He said, but we will go with them, and we will stay there until they get what they need. There used to be a phrase sometimes, especially in your Pentecostal type churches and some of your charismatic type churches, a few non-denominational, if they push the edge of spirituality a little bit, and it was called praying through. How many have ever heard that phrase, to pray through? That literally means you pray till you get an answer. How many in here would say there were times, because this kind of stuff occasionally happened on a Sunday morning, but because of the way the services are designed and the people that are there and stuff like that, usually happened on a Sunday night, be most like that. But maybe church started at 6 o'clock. At the latest, it'd be 7. Most of the time, churches started at 6 on Sunday evenings. But there were times, because there were people at the altars, it was after midnight before you left. Anybody ever been in a service like that? Those were some of the most amazing services. Why doesn't God move? Because the people aren't patient. Praying through. There was none of this back when I was growing up, Ricky. There was none of this. Get up here and pray 5-10 minutes, one song, maybe 2 songs. It's over. Everybody go home. If somebody was crying at that altar, there'd be 20 people around them praying out loud. If they were spirit-filled, be praying in the Spirit and speaking in tongues. There would be people pacing back and forth and beating on the doors of heaven because they couldn't be satisfied till the brothers got their blessing, till the sister. Oh, this is some Sunday morning preaching now, and this is Wednesday night. I don't go on Wednesday night. It's boring. I don't know why people don't go. This is truth, though, ain't it? Why did they do so much stuff in my grandparents' lives and in my parents' lives? Because there were battles fought around the altars, and they prayed through till they got an answer, till they got peace. And everybody just didn't leave, and there was 2 people up here, half the church would stay. There were many a nights. Amber and Jeremy, what's his name? We'd be praying, and they'd be, if you grew up in that time, you know it. Maybe you were the kids that done it. You slept on what they called the pews. The kids, we didn't care about that. There's school the next day. Oh, God forbid, we need to go home. Somebody can't get an answer to prayer because there's school the next morning. Didn't matter if you had to get up and go to work at 3 o'clock the next morning. Didn't matter if there was school. Didn't matter what. You prayed, and the kids come up, I'm hungry. I literally told them one time, you think I got a hamburger in my pocket? What are you telling me this for? You know, go lay down. They would get a quilt, they'd get a blanket, and they would pass out. Maybe we'd have a better generation of kids if we had more kids that fell asleep on the pews because the parents didn't want to leave church. I didn't mean to hit you. I'm hoping the live stream people are watching this. Go home and share this message because that's where the answers are. People willing to fight. And I got my blessing. I got my answer. There was one time, and I'll never forget it. The pastor had a big altar call, and a bunch of people come up front. I can't remember what all the different things he was saying. If you got this in your life, if you need deliverance, you need healing or whatever. And I stayed where I was at. And I'm standing there, and there's people praying, and some people praying for him and stuff, and I'm just back there happy as a clam. Why'd they say that? I guess because it looks like they always got a big smile on their face or something. I'm just happy, enjoying myself, you know, and God shows up. Are you serious? God isn't just up here. Sometimes he'll come back to where you're at. Especially if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. He'll make the trip, believe me. And he come back here and he stood next to me and said, what are you doing here? Now, I've had them say that to me before when I've been in places I shouldn't be. But I've thought like, well, I'm just enjoying the service. I'm just praying. I'm having a good time. Well, why ain't you up there? He gonna keep at it till he gets his answer, okay? I said, because ain't got no problems right now. Everything's good. I'm great. Oh, but in my mind, I thought, got you, God. I got the right answer. He said, that's why you're strong, to go help the weak. So God, I said, literally, that means I'm up there every time, whether I'm needing help or someone else needs help. You getting it, son? You're learning. And so in this story, we find out here that God is saying the same thing. You've got yours. You're at peace. You got everything you want. But you can't be satisfied until they get theirs. And that means until they pray through. You may be out there months or years. But once they get theirs, then the whole land can enjoy the peace. So they said, well, we're willing to fight for our families, our friends, and neighbors. You see, because this isn't my war. I've got mine. But now that I have mine, I have the ability to help somebody else. I have a place to go back to. They still don't. They're still wanderers. How could I be sitting at my home in a nice place while the rest of God's people are homeless? Is that a place God wants me to be in? No. And so, thank goodness when Moses warns them, they understand and they say, yes, we're willing to do this. So, in that same chapter of Numbers 32, let's read verses 20 through 22, because they've given their response to Moses. And see, in this book here, Numbers, we're hearing what the people respond. And then after they said their piece, this is what Moses said. Then Moses said, if you keep your word and arm yourself for the Lord's battles. Now listen to that right there. You catch that? But it's not my war. It's my friend, it's my relative, it's my neighbor. You see, and the thing is sometimes we think that, well, it's all the children of Israel. They're all family. They're all in Egypt together. How many of you know every single person in Center? There's only 5,000 people. Are you serious? You don't know everybody in Center? So why would we expect them to know 6 million people? Because they said approximately 6 million people left. Because of how many million they said were men, and then they add women and children. These were people they didn't know. I don't know them like that, God, not to die for. They might be kinfolk because we're all descendants and we're all the Jewish people and we're Israelites, but it's not my war. But Moses changes something here. He says, for the Lord's battles. You see, we're in the Lord's army. Remember that song in children's church? I'm in the Lord's army. Yeah, there you go. We'd sing that as kids because we are all in the Lord's army. And he said, this is the Lord's battle. And you're part of that infantry, and we need to get out there and fight. So Moses said, if you keep your word. How many of us have ever broken our word? Don't answer. But we know how, well, this came up and this came up. Do you ever wonder why God says never make a vow? The reason he says that is not to keep you from making commitments, but to realize that we're human and we don't control circumstances, we don't control the weather, we don't control other people. And so literally there are so many things that can come between us and our vows that it's better not to vow and just do your best. But anyway, he says, if you keep your word and arm yourselves for the Lord's battles, and if your troops cross the Jordan and keep fighting. You know, ever know somebody that's good at starting things and never finishing them? We're all guilty sometimes, but there are some people that's the life story. They've started 100,000 things, never finished any of them. And you keep fighting. It's not good enough to say, well, Lord, I left my house, I left my family, I came out, I fought for a week, I fought for a month, I spent 3 hours at the altar. Well, if you spent 3 hours at the altar, but that person didn't really get their answer, they just got a piece that God's going to handle it, you know they're still in the fray, that means we keep praying during the week. We don't give up and say, well, I've fulfilled my time, I fulfilled my quota. He says you keep fighting until the Lord has driven out the enemies. The prayers keep going up, maybe not constantly, but we have it on the list, so we remind ourselves to pray for them. Let's go on. Then you may return when the Lord is coming. You see, it's not us doing it anyway. We think, well, we're out there doing the work. It's not my war. Well, yeah, it's not really your war. It's God's war. It's his battle. He's going to do the fighting, but you have to be there. You have to be in person to do this. He says, when the Lord has conquered the land, that's when you can go back home. You will have fulfilled your duty to the Lord. See, first and foremost, everything we do can't be for our glory, can't be for looking at somebody and saying, well, look at what I've done in their life, look how I've helped them or I've influenced them. It's not about me, it's about the Lord. So I will have fulfilled my duty to the Lord, which I'm supposed to do everything to. We're going to talk about this verse later on, where Jesus said, if you have given just a cup of cold water in my name, you've done it unto me. But then those times when you haven't given what somebody wanted, you also didn't give it to me. It's funny how those verses work out both ways. And just to make sure we got that, he explains it both ways. Because the people actually said, well, Lord, when didn't we help you? We thought we helped you every time you were here. And he said, well, when you didn't help that one, you didn't help me. So yeah, he's pretty blunt to the point, you know, he don't play around. He says, but you'll have fulfilled your duty to the Lord and the rest of the people of Israel. We have an obligation to both. When a pastor does this, it means he's wanting a response. And when he don't get it, that means he drove the nail home good. We have an obligation to God and the people, the children of the Lord. We still have an obligation to that because we used to be one of them. Somebody helped us get what we got. And so we have to in turn share that duty. Okay, and the rest of the people of Israel, and the land on the east side of the Jordan will be your property from the Lord. It's yours. I give it to you, but you can't enjoy it till you help them fight and get theirs. When they get theirs, and you can go back and enjoy what I've given you. Basically what he's saying. So then Moses, let's go back to Deuteronomy, where we started in this journey with Moses explaining what's going on. And we start off saying, Moses said, I've given this land, but I'm telling you, your warriors have to go. Once he finishes talking to them, he turns to Joshua. You see, because Moses can't go into the promised land. And so he turns to Joshua and literally begins to explain to Joshua that, yeah, we fought King Sihon and we won. And we've conquered the land and we got all this place. Then last week, when they conquered King Og, he's telling Joshua, yeah, we conquered King Og and we captured 60, if you were here last week, 60 cities. But that ain't enough for 6 million people, because those cities weren't big cities. They were small cities. And so he's telling Joshua, that's just the start of this thing. We got a big battle, a big war, a big land that we need to conquer, and we got to finish the task because the battle or the war isn't over. You see, too many times along the way, when we're looking for an answer for God and we're praying for an answer, whether it's collectively as a body of believers or individually, we win a battle and we think the war's over. But there's a lot of battles. I mean, if you've just been paying attention to the Russia-Ukraine invasion, I mean, look how many battles there have been over the 7 weeks or however long it's been going on. And so he's telling Joshua, the war's still going on, and we've been in some battles. And then he explains something. He literally says, but as the Lord has been faithful up till then, up till now, so he's going to be in what we got to face ahead. You know, that's why sometimes we need to make sure we set up memorials, that we have a time of remembering and reflecting on the things that God has done in our life, because it reminds us that the giants we're facing today, the cities we're facing today, the armies we're facing today, the storms we're bracing for today, that if God has been faithful till this point, why would he stop? Why would he not continue on? I think it was the Imperials, I think, that had a song. Of course, this is going way back. A lot of people don't even know how many know who the Imperials were? Okay, that's where I took Terry on her first date. We went to a concert and seen the Imperials, and they still had Russ Taff singing with them. Now people know Russ Taff because he sang with the Gaithers for a while. All the Gaither stuff, he was on a lot of their shows. But I knew him when he was cool, so anyway. Before he got old. So that means I got old too along the way, right? But I think one of their songs, I'm attributing it to them, was, He didn't bring us this far to leave us. He didn't teach us to swim to let us drown. In other words, if God has got you to this point in life, I don't care where in life that is. Because if you begin to look at hindsight, you'll see some battles, some storms, some skirmishes, some things that a lot of people don't make it through, that destroys a lot of relationships, destroys a lot of lives, destroys confidence, destroys health. And we could look back and see the journeys. We might have ended up in jail or in prison or dead. And we look back, if God was faithful enough to get us, He didn't bring you this far just to let you die right here and not get to what you were promised and not to get what was that He wanted you to enjoy and to be a part of your life. So He's telling Joshua He's been faithful up to now, and He would be in the tasks ahead, even if what looks ahead seems bigger than what you've ever faced before in your life. Let's see exactly what He said. So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 3. Let's drop down a couple of verses from where we were before. I think last time we stopped at 19 or 20. Let's go ahead and, well, I got this the wrong way. You got it up there? No, you don't have it up there yet. Okay, I got it. Deuteronomy 3:21 and 22. This is Moses speaking. At that time I gave Joshua this charge. This is after he addresses Reuben and Gad about you have to fight with them. You have seen for yourself everything the Lord your God has done to these two kings. He's going to do the same to all the kingdoms on the west side of the Jordan. It's not like God's power is going to stop at the Jordan River. It's not like, oh, He done a lot of stuff over here, but once we wade that water and get to the other side, are you still God over there? Are you still strong over there? Are you still powerful over there? We almost do the same thing so many times in our lives. God, I know You've done that here, but I don't know when I step across the threshold into that life, into that area, into that circumstance. And He's saying He's going to do the same thing to the kings on the west side of the Jordan that He did on the east side of the Jordan. Then He goes on, verse 22, do not be afraid of the nations there, for the Lord your God will fight for you. Well, I thought Moses said all the 2.5 tribes that were staying behind on the east side had to go and fight. Yes, we are called to the battle every time. Sometimes we get there and God has already destroyed or took care of every little thing. Sometimes He waits till we actually start moving. Sometimes, like the time when the children of Israel were fighting and Moses was up on the hill and Aaron and Hur had to keep holding his arms up so they could win the battle, because when his arm fell, they literally had to fight all day, but the Lord gave them the victory. It says, because the Lord's going to fight your battles for you. Yeah, you're going there. You've been called to duty. You've been drafted. It's not your war, but you're obeying and being obedient and going to fight for your family, your neighbors, and people you don't even know, so that you can enjoy your blessing because they'll enjoy their blessing, but the Lord's going to fight for you. God's plan the whole time was for all the children of Israel and all the people before them and after them to fight for each other even when it wasn't their war. It's so easy to fight a battle and have people come and help us, and we're thankful that we've obtained victory. But then sometimes the very people that have helped us, they have to go back and continue fighting battles because they're not there yet. They took time out of their war to help us get what we want. And so God wants this perpetual circle of everybody helping each other all the time, constantly fighting and strengthening and encouraging. I came across a song. I don't know much about, I didn't know anything about the song. I was looking up things about fighting for other people's battles, fighting wars that aren't ours and all this stuff, and this came up. The person that took that song, put it to a video, I literally had to put the words to it, but they took the song because they liked what the song said, and it comes from the pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, but it's talking about fighting for others and facing their giants and walking into the fire for them. In other words, it's all for you. I'm doing these things for you. And that they use the pandemic in the setting that the first responders and the nurses and all those people were literally on the front lines laying down their lives, literally and being exhausted and the chance of them getting sick. And so it was a neat background of that, an idea of somebody that they have a good profession, they're making good money, but yet they were risking their lives, and they were risking it for the lowest of low, the highest of high. It didn't matter because it was all about them. And then there's also scenes mixed throughout of people just in their relationships. There's a husband and wife together, there's grandparents together, and there's all these situations that we're willing to fight for. And you see, the very reason I showed that very first movie clip from 5 Feet Apart in that song, because a lot of times we're willing to fight for love. The ones that mean the most to us, we'll fight for our children, we'll fight for brothers and sisters, we'll fight for our parents, and all this kind of stuff. We understand that kind of fight. But what about when the fight's for sometimes people we don't even know? We have to be willing to go to war for them too. This song is called War for You, and like I said, it's set to the background of that, but I thought it was interesting, so we're going to listen to it.
If you're broken, feeling weary, so tired from the fight, if your world is slowly sinking, so hard to see the light, if you can't find the strength to go on another day, and your back's against the wall, I walk through every fire, stand tall there right beside you, be the one to get you through. Yeah, I face the lion, take on every giant. There's nothing I wouldn't do. I'd go to war for you. I'd go to war for you. It's okay to need somebody to hold you in the dark, yeah. And it's okay to reach for someone who's stronger than you are. If you can't find the strength to go on for another day, I walk through every fire, stand tall there right beside you, be the one to get you through. Yeah, I'll face the lion, take on every giant. There's nothing I wouldn't do. I'd go to war for you. I'd go to war for you. Yeah, I'd go to war for you. Oh yeah. I walk through every fire, stand tall there right beside you, be the one to get you through. Yeah, I'll face the lion, take on every giant. There's nothing I wouldn't do. I'd go to war for you. I walk through every fire, stand tall there right beside you, be the one to get you through. I'd go to war for you. Yeah, I'll face the lion, take on every giant. There's nothing I wouldn't do. It's okay to need somebody to hold you in the dark.
I love that song when I heard it because it fits so perfectly with this message that I'm willing to go to war for you. Everyone in here has probably prayed or asked somebody to pray for them and say, I'm facing some giants. Man, I got a fiery trial I'm fixing to go through. I need some encouragement. I need some help. I need some wisdom. I need strength. And we'll pray, God, help me slay my giant. Help me defeat that lion that's trying to devour me. But did you notice what this song says? I will face your lions. When's the last time you stepped up in somebody else's life and said, you know what? You got some lions, I'm here for you. I will take the forefront in prayer. I'll begin to fast. I'm going to start seeking God. I'm going to spend more time trying to find an answer and trying to help you out. I will slay your giants. Instead of always saying, God, help them out, he may be sending you to help them out. Let me give you an example. Since we're talking about giants, David. Do you know that was not his war? It was not his battle. Whose battle was it? Saul and his army. Saul, the man who stood head and shoulders above everybody else. Big bad Saul. I know the song is Big Bad John, but Big Bad Saul. And he's got an army of grown men, mature men, men that had fought all their lives, been in battles, killed people. Yet Goliath comes out every day from the Philistine army, and it says every day when Goliath voiced his threats, they would run and hide, grown men, and hide behind rocks and trees. David comes out. According to the Bible, we sort of think he might have been, and the reason I'm saying this is not in detriment, but sometimes how we get these character ideas about people, stereotypes, that he was probably freckled and red-haired, which means he's also really pale. And so here comes this little scrawny kid, red hair and freckles. If he stays out in the sun too long, he might get sunburned, I don't know. And he's coming here, and these guys are hiding. And he says, what's going on? I came here because you're at battle. You're supposed to be defending the nation. Oh, but there's this big dude that comes out, and we're all scared, and we can't do nothing. You know what happened on that day? God looked at David and said, I'm drafting you, son. I'm drafting you. Not my battle, God. I just came to bring some bread and cheese to my brothers. And they just think I'm being nosy. Everybody knows I can't do this. This is not my war. But because Goliath was not only being derogatory to his brothers, his sisters, his family, his kindred, his brethren, he's being derogatory to God. And he said, I am not having that. You ain't going to come out here and mess with my people. You ain't going to mess with my God. It's not my war. You should be doing this, but I will face, Saul, guys, I will face your giant for you. I wonder how many times God has drafted us to fight somebody's Goliath, to slay somebody's lion, to be with them in the fiery furnace, but yet we don't want to be drafted. We say, God, it's not my problem, God. I've been through a lot of stuff, God. You know, I just come out of a battle, and I just found a place to rest and some strength. But he's saying, until everybody gets it, you really can't have it. Because we're all in this together. We have an obligation. And so it wasn't David's battle. In the Old Testament, we find several times, and I've just got a few that I want to bring to your attention. We could go into many, but in Judges chapter 1, verse 3, we find this. It says, then Judah said to Simeon, his brother, come on up with me into the territory allotted me. In other words, he's got some land that's supposed to be his, that we may fight against the Canaanites. Judah says, come on up with me. The men of Judah said to their relatives from the tribes, come on up with me and fight with me to help me get what I want. And then the verse goes on and says, and I will in turn go with you into territory allotted you. So Simeon went with him. What an amazing concept. I've got battles. I've got promises. You've got battles. You got promises. If you fight yours and I fight mine, we're both going to die. We're both going to get wore out. We're both going to get beat down. But you know what? We're together. Why don't you come and help me, and we will get mine taken care of. Then I'm going to help you and get yours taken care of. Then we both have rest. We both have peace. We both have comfort. In 1 Kings 22, verse 4, and he said, and who's he? The king of Israel at the time. And he said to Jehoshaphat, who was king of Judah at the time, Will you go with me to battle at Ramoth Gilead? And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, I am as you are, my people as your people, my horses as your horses. King of Israel comes up and says, hey, we got a problem down here at Ramoth Gilead, and really it sort of affects both of us, more me than you, but you have some territory close to that, but it's really a thorn in my side, it's really an issue to me. Will you come along and help me go there, defeat this thing? And he says, his response is, no, it's not my war. No. He says, sure. My people are your people. My horses are your horses. My weapons are your weapons. My strength is your strength. We are family. We are kin. We are bonded together. Let's go take this problem on. The early church was so strong and accomplished so much because that's the attitude they had. The early church was constantly facing government threats and persecution and death and being placed in the stadium so people could watch them be devoured by wild animals. And how did they face those things? How did they approach that culture? They were together. They were as one. So we find that in 1 Kings. In Zechariah chapter 10, verse 5, it's talking about the people and the Lord and the army and everybody gathering together to work. And it says, together they will be like warriors in battle, trampling their enemy into the mud of the streets. They will fight because the Lord is with them, and they will put the enemy horsemen to shame. Literally, the foot soldiers would destroy those on the chariots and on the horses, because together there was strength, together there was power. In unity, they seen how it was beneficial to both parties, and how could I be enjoying the fruits that the Lord has blessed me with and not help my brother or sister get theirs as well. So that brings me to this final thought tonight. Those were all Old Testament. Today, God still requires us to fight with our brethren. And I said it this way on purpose because some of us are cool doing it this way. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. He or she always gets on my nerves. They make me mad. I'm really going to go fight with them. It's not that kind of fight. It's not fighting with them to destroy them and hurt them. But you know what? The sad thing is the reason why so many churches don't have the amount of people that they should have or God wants is because there's too much fighting with the brethren. They can't get along. Jesus put it real simple. In the Word it says real simple. If you can't get along with the people you see, how can you say you love the God you can't see? The proof is in the pudding. Do you know, Jesus literally said it this way one time. He said, by this, everybody's going to know you're my kids. You're my disciples. Not because you go to church. Not because you give the most in the offering. Not because you fast and you pray. You dress right and spit white. Those aren't the reasons they're going to know you're my disciples. Jesus said, they will know you're my disciples in that you have love one for another. Literally what he was saying there, can I translate that or read between the lines? If you don't love your brother or sister, you're not his disciple. It works both ways. We can try to get around and navigate, but what he doesn't say is as important as what he says sometimes. By saying they're going to know you're my disciple because you love each other, he's literally saying when you don't love each other and you don't get along, we wish we could do that with our kids sometimes. You ain't my kid. You've said that to your wife. That one's sitting right there. Maggie ain't mine. Jaylee ain't mine. And Melinda's looking at Jason. Your daughter. I guarantee you that stuff happened. We wish we could do that. Jesus being real plain. I'm just going to tell you up front. You don't love each other. You ain't mine. I don't own you. Don't come running to Daddy. He didn't say it that way, but he said it because of what he did say. So we're supposed to fight with our brethren. So what does that mean? More like this other slide that I chose. It's like we're side by side. We're back to back. We're taking on a common enemy. And whenever we join forces like this, things get accomplished. We both succeed. So other places in the New Testament, it's not so much about fighting like it was in the Old Testament. Our enemy now is a spiritual enemy. It's a supernatural enemy. We're fighting the devil. We're fighting spiritual wickedness in high places. We're fighting demonic activity. We're also fighting the flesh. And we're fighting all the things that still might try to keep us from being united, get what we need. It's all about me and not worry about everybody else. And so the verses change a little bit. But the goal is still, through the Word of God and through Jesus, to tell us that we need to be concerned about other people. We need to help them get what they want so we can have what we want. And ultimately, just as in the Promised Land, everybody enjoys victory. Everybody gets to enjoy the promise. They all find themselves at peace and rest. And so here's some of the ways that we find wording in the New Testament that still talk about helping others and reaching out for others to make sure they have the life God wants for them. Philippians 1:27. This is out of the NLT. Above all, you must live as citizens of heaven, conducting yourselves in a manner worthy of the good news about Christ. Then this is Paul talking. Then when I come and see you again, or if I only hear about you, I will know that you are standing together with one spirit, one purpose, fighting together for the faith. Now it's talking about the good news, the news that Jesus Christ saves and delivers and his blood washes away from sin. But whenever we're fighting together for the faith, we're also fighting together for the faith of those that are in battles and about to lose their faith. That they're up against a struggle and they're about to give up, they're about to quit. He says, I will hear or see you working together, not this person saying, whoo, I'm glad I'm saved, sanctified. My dad had this saying, which I know it wasn't his saying, but he said, too many people in the church are sitting and satisfied. Saved, sitting, and satisfied. I got mine. I got saved. I'm sitting in the church. I'm doing good stuff, and I'm satisfied. I ain't going to do nothing else. It's not the kind of people God wants. He wants to see us working together, that because we've been blessed, we help others get their blessing. Because we're living in our promise, we can help others obtain their promise. And so we're fighting for the faith of the individuals. We're fighting for the faith of the doctrine of what we believe is the gospel of Jesus Christ. In Galatians 6:2, carry each other's burdens, and so you will fulfill the law of Christ. But God, I just toted a heavy burden for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. I just got to the altar, finally unloaded that thing. My back is killing me, spiritually speaking. I'm bent over. I don't know, but there's somebody struggling. Well, you know what he wants you to do? You go help them carry theirs. Because his yoke is easy, his burden's light. He will help us. He's going to end up, I guarantee you, if you begin to do that, you will find the strength you need to do that. And it may not be, you may, oh crap, this hurts. Oh God, are you serious, God? I can't do this. It's been too rough. I'll never make it. Oh, whoa, boom. It might not happen till you literally begin to pick it up, just like the waters didn't recede till the heels of the priest touched the water. Why? There's faith. Am I going to trust God? Is he going to give me the strength? I'm doing what he's asking me to do. So yeah, we have to carry each other's burdens. We don't like it. You know, if I'm sitting in a recliner and Terry drives home, she's been at Walmart, and she's only got like 2 sacks, it's okay. I can sit in a recliner. Because by the time I get up, she's going to have them toted in. But if she's been gone for 3 hours, I know from the passenger seat and the front seat all the way to the back is full. And so I have found out by helping her carry that burden, that's a good thing. Not only relationship-wise, but there's a lot of stuff in there that will benefit me. Sometimes I don't even know there's surprises in there. It's like Christmas. What's in this sack? Why'd you buy that? You might be surprised when we go to help someone else carry their burdens and their packages, boxes, packages, and bows, what might be in there. God might have something for us that we will never receive because we weren't willing to go help somebody carry their burden. We never thought that our promise, will that preach? We might never think that our promise, God, how can I help him carry that? I haven't got my answer yet. And God said there, it's right there in the car. If you'll go help him carry it, when you carry it in, boom, there it is. Hey, Don't you think God will do that sometimes? And then when you say, God, why haven't I had it? Because you didn't go help that person. It was there in their baggage. They were literally, I get the bumps because God He brings these things to my mind that I never think of. They were literally burdened carrying our promise. And so God says, help them carry their burden, because it's actually for, man, you need to tell somebody Sunday they should have been here Wednesday night. There's been some good things said. I'm not listening to this one again myself, because none of this is in my notes. That's just some good stuff. Philippians 2:4. Instead of each person watching out for their own good, watch out for what is better for others. It's the same thing. Don't enjoy your promise till you've helped some of these others get theirs. I talked about this scripture about when did we help you when you gave to the least? When didn't we help you when you didn't give to the least? So he's encouraging us to help those that haven't got theirs yet. Deuteronomy 22:4. Don't just watch your fellow Israelites' donkey or ox fall down in the road and do nothing about it. You must help your fellow Israelite get the animal up again. You're in your house, you're eating supper, you just got up, you're about to go to bed. You look out, and then your neighbor's struggling with a cart, and the donkey falls down, the wheel falls off. Says, don't just sit there. Get up and help. There's so many times he wants us to help. And literally we have it within our strength. He will give us that. And then the last one, and I could read on and on, but the last one, 1 John 3:17, says this. But if someone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but refuses to help, how can the love of God dwell in a person like that? Those verses are pretty strong and stout. But God, I worked hard for this. I guarantee you if you give it in his name, he will replace it. So what? We do all this. The tribe of Reuben and Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh said, okay, this is our promise. We've got ours, but we promise we're going to go help them get theirs. We won't return to our land till we've helped them. We're going to stay and fight till the war's over. We're doing this for the Lord first and foremost, and then for our fellow countrymen. We see Jesus and God talking about all these ways to work together, to help each other, that it's beneficial for all of us. He blesses us to bless others. So what happens in the end? What's the end result going to be? Well, to me, I think it sums it up in Matthew 25, verse 23. And I think I got a slide for this one. Did I give that? So yeah, there you go. When it's all said and done, well done, my good and faithful servant. Since you were faithful in small matters, I'll give you great responsibilities. Come share your master's joy. We're going to get our reward. We're quick to say sometimes when somebody does evil, oh, they'll get theirs. I can't wait till they get theirs. God is just as God is sure and true on his judgment and punishment, he's just as faithful and true on his blessings and his rewards. And when we're obedient, we do and follow his word, that's what's going to be said. How do we know that's what's going to happen? In Joshua, I told you all three of these books we were in today, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Joshua, they're all talking about the same circumstances from different points of view. I think I had Joshua marked in mine. Yeah, I got it. He doesn't have it yet. Joshua chapter 22, 1 through 8. This is Joshua talking. Remember, he had to lead them into the promised land. Moses was talking to the tribes and to Joshua that day. He told all these things. Now that they're there, this is what Joshua says, once the battle's over. Then Joshua called together the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and he told them, you have done as Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and you have obeyed every order I have given you. During all this time, you've not deserted the other tribes. You've been careful to obey the commands of the Lord your God right up to the present day, right up to this moment. And now the Lord your God has given the other tribes rest as he promised them. You've stayed till the battle was over. They're getting their inheritance. They're getting their rest, just like the Lord promised them. So now, go back home to the land that Moses, the servant of God, gave you as your possession on the east side of the river. But be careful when you go back. There's still a warning. Be careful when you go back to obey all the commands and the instructions that Moses gave you. Love the Lord your God, walk in his ways, obey his commandments, hold firmly to him, and serve him with all your heart and your soul. So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went home. Moses had given the land of Bashan east of the Jordan River to the half tribe of Manasseh. The other half of the tribe was given land west of the Jordan. And Joshua sent them away and blessed them. He said to them, go back to your homes with the great wealth you've taken from your enemies. You see, they were blessed in fighting with their brethren in the promised land because they got to take the plunder and the spoils of that war home. So even though it cost them, they got more in return. They were, go back to your homes with the great wealth you've taken from your enemies, the vast herds of livestock, the silver, the gold, the bronze, the iron, the large supply of clothing. Share the plunder with your relatives. When we work together, when we're in this together, not only does it benefit our brethren, not only does God give us answers to our prayers, we get the promise we've been given, there's also the spoils of war. We come back with more than what we left with. That's the way God does it. So I'm going to end with this song by King and Country. It became popular during the pandemic, but the whole thought is this idea that we can do anything together. God's people were meant to work together, live together, love each other, and help each other obtain the things that God has for them in this life. So we'll pray out as soon as this song's over. King and Country, together.
This is for the busted hearts. This is for the question marks. This is for the outcast soul, lost control, no one knows. Sing it for the can't go back. Sing it for the broken past. Sing it for the just found out life is now upside down. If you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. If you feel alone and don't understand, if you're fighting the fight of your life, then stand. We're gonna make it through this hand in hand. And if we fall, we will fall together. Together.
This is for the second chance. This is for the new romance. Singing for the left in vain. Overcame. It's not too late.
If you're looking for hope tonight, raise your hand. If you feel alone and don't understand, if you're fighting the fight of your life, then stand. We're gonna make it through this hand in hand. And if we fall, we will fall together. Together. When we rise, we will rise together. Together. Listen,
If you're looking for hope tonight,
you're all alone
feeling alone tonight,
and you feel
you're in the fight of your life.
I can promise
Gonna make it happen. I will be by your side. By your side. In the air tonight.
can you feel it?
Let me see the light. Whenever and wherever, just as long as we're together. Say,
We fall, we will fall together. I got you, my brother. I see you, my sister. We rise, we will rise together. Together. We fall, we will fall together. Take my hand, help me stand.
when we rise, we will rise together.
Yes, sir.
Together we are dangerous. Together with our differences. Together we are bolder, braver, stronger.
It's amazing what we can do together, because the thing is we're God's children. He ends up fighting the battles for us. Would you stand with me, please, tonight? Yes. Yes, I was going to do that, and we're going to go ahead, and that's how we're going to close out. I want somebody to just come up and Debbie, since Ricky said this, would you mind just coming up and standing here for her? Don't know all the circumstances because there's been so many things, and I know there's questions and stuff going on, but she tried calling me early this evening. I wasn't able to talk.